A beautiful, beautiful lady. Thank you. I'm an alcoholic. My name is Sister Maurice, and I approve this message. Thank you for coming to be with me on this, the most important day of my life. It's not my birthday, it's not the anniversary of anything in particular, it's just simply the only day I have. And when people come to be with you at such a significant time in your life, you try to remember them, at least I do. And I'll try to remember you because you're here with me on this, the most important day of my life. I would like to thank Lee and the committee and John and Matt and all those who have been doing love and service for inviting me to come and share my experience, strength, and hope in this beautiful part of the world. It shows me that there are people in other parts of the world that have good judgment. It's nice to be invited. There was a time in my life when people stopped inviting me. I used to go anyway. And then I'd make a 30-day retreat wondering why I wasn't invited back. So to be invited today, it's very, very special to me. As I look out here this evening, I'm reminded of the farming section of our country, and a minister was going to a church to give a talk. And he got to the church, and the bell was ringing, and he was supposed to get up and give his message, and there was just one farmer in the pew. So he got up, and he came down, and then he said to the farmer, he said, "You know, I'm supposed to give my sermon, but you're the only one who has showed up." And the farmer said, "Well, if I had a load of hay and I went out to feed the cows and only one cow showed up, I'd feed the cow." And the minister said, "You got it." Up into the pulpit he goes, and an hour later he finishes. And he comes down and he says to the farmer, "What'd you think?" The farmer said, "Well, if I had a load of hay and I went out to feed the cows and only one cow showed up, I don't think I'd give him the whole load." Now, if you didn't get that, you could talk to your sponsor. Well, you know, they're still going around with stories about the nuns, the sisters. And one that I heard, these two nuns, they were dressed in their full outfit. They went to the supermarket, and they were walking around the supermarket, and they passed by the beer, wine, and whiskey section. And one nun said to the other, "Would you like a beer?" And the other nun said, "Oh, I would." But she said, "I'd be embarrassed when we go up to checkout." So the other nun said, "I'll take care of it." So they picked up a six-pack. They went up to the checkout, and the checkout lady stood with her mouth open. And the nun said, "It's for washing our hair." And the checkout lady went down under the counter, and she came up with a bag of pretzels. And she said, the curlers are on me. I had my meditation when I hear Sister Rose share her story. It's the same meditation all the time for me. If I go back out there, shoot me and then discuss it. Thank you very much for sharing one more time. I stand in awe at this moment of God's love for me. I stand in awe of you and my relationship with you. And I stand in awe of Sister Maurice. If you don't remember anything I shared this evening, please remember this, because this is how I want to be remembered. It's the most important thing about me at any point on a clock. I'm an alcoholic, which means 1 brandy, 2 brandies, 3 brandies, floor. I'm a woman. I'm a member of a religious community. I'm an RN, a real nun. I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous in good standing, in particular the Forest Hills group in Queens, New York. That's my home group. And the last thing I tell you about myself is my name. Incidentally, my name is Sister Maurice. One of the things that I'm partial to in our fellowship is that it's a fellowship of equals. There are no titles in Alcoholics Anonymous or Al-Anon. No one really cares what you do for a living. I love that expression, fellowship of equals. I don't think there's another outfit in society that can claim fellowship of equals like we can. At least we'd match any other group that's out there. And yet, you have never been anything else in the fellowship other than Sister Maurice. Isn't that a title? I see it as my name. It's on all my important papers. It's on my driver's license. It's the name I've been using most of my life. It's still written up quite well, 2 police stations, City of New York. But moreover, it's the name I gave when I came into the fellowship a while back. A call had been made, and I was to go to the Forest Hills group of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I wasn't quite sure that someone of my class and caliber should be going to such a place as AA. So I was not a happy camper when I came. But little by slowly, thanks to you, that has all changed. So much so that I can say quite comfortably today, I choose to live the AA way of life. And when I talk about something being a way of life, it's not an incidental experience. It's not something I do when the Spirit moves me. A way of life to me is as much a part of me as my right hand and my left hand. And that's the way I see Alcoholics Anonymous today. But for starters, I went to this first meeting. I went up the stairs, down the stairs, into a little room. There was one man in the room. He took a look at me, came running across the room, grabbed my hand, told me who he was, and then he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Me?" He said, "Yeah, what's your name?" Oh, I said, "I'm Sister Maurice." Now, this man didn't say, "We'll have a group conscience meeting and I'll get back to you." The very next thing the man said was, "Hi, Sister Maurice, you're welcome." And in my 38 years in the fellowship, No one has ever suggested that I call myself anything else. The name is important, it's mine. But the most important thing about me at any point on a clock is what I told you first and foremost. I'm an alcoholic. And each and every time I say that, beginning first, when I awaken in the morning, I don't know how you sleep. Of course I don't. But I sleep primarily on my right side. And when I awaken in the morning, I don't even know I have two eyes, because this one's buried in the pillow. Before I go looking for this eye, the very first thing I do, I announce before my God, I am an alcoholic. It sets the tone here. It puts me on the right wavelength. And any time thereafter that I say I'm an alcoholic, I am reminded that of all the things I do each day that God gives me, my most important job, work, task, assignment is that I stay sober. And I do that best through the principles and traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous as they have been written. When I came a while back, I was given a book. I thought it was an interesting way the book was given to me. The lady who gave it to me was much shorter than I was, and she stood out in front of me and she said, "Here is a big book." No coincidence, I'm very farsighted. And I saw some fellows over there putting some shiny signs on the wall. And my eye hit upon the one that said, "Keep it simple." And as sick and all as I was, I said to myself, wouldn't dare say it to the lady, boy, do these people practice what they preach. Because you can't get much simpler than that. Here is a big book. Of course, now we have the paperback version, which I call the small big book. I don't call it the small book. I don't call it the little book, because there's another book in the bookstore in the mall called the small book. And it talks about being an alternative to Alcoholics Anonymous. So I call ours the small big book. Well, you introduce anything new in AA or Al-Anon, and they send for you. This fella came to me, and he had a small big book, and he's pacing up and down. He's saying, "Hey, sister, you call this the small big book?" I said, "I do." He said, "That's a contradiction." I said, "Contradiction?" He said, "Small, big, small, big." I thought for a moment and I said, "Well, we have had jumbo shrimp for years." Well, I took the book as it was being presented, and this is what was said to me. I was told I should read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I should study the big book. I should believe what I found there. I should share what I believe, and I should practice what I share. And then this lady said, "We suggest you do that along with the people who know how to do it best." And she called that outfit the fellowship. And then she put the whole thing together and she said to me, "That is a design for living that really works." What do I know about anything? I said, "Let me see what I can do." And that design for living has worked so well for this lady here that I don't spend a fleeting moment of my precious time looking around for alternative ways to go. I need all the help I can get, believe you me, but it is always as a secondary measure to the program. Alcohol became a way of life for me in a very short period of time. It dictated my moods, it made my decisions, it said you will and it said you won't. I found it very hard to eventually surrender to the fact that whenever the first drink, I thought maybe the 21st, but whenever the first drink of alcohol went into this body, mind, and spirit, two things happened. One, I didn't know how many more I was going to have. Two, I didn't know what the behavior would be like. However, if you met me along the way and you said, "Sister, how many drinks did you have or will you have?" I would have said 2, because that's what a lady should have. And if you said to me, "What was your behavior like or what will it be like?" I would have said, "Steady as you go," because that's how I saw myself. But I know today it was very different. I was a first grade teacher at the time, and I had the reputation in those days of being the best teacher in the school. Isn't that right, Kevin? When the children came to first grade, after Labor Day each September, by the end of September, my kids were ready for college. And at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'd be working real hard with these kids. And something would start in my body, mind, and spirit, screaming in there, "You need a drink." And the very next thing I would do morning after morning, I would put up against the screaming what people told me I had so much of, and that was willpower. And the willpower approach was futile. And I went on to learn, and I'm glad I did, that it wasn't that I was a weak-willed individual, but rather I was a diseased person. I was a sick, untreated alcoholic. And when you're in that condition, it goes beyond the strength of your will to do other than to satisfy what's going on in here. So I'd move to the next phase of the game plan. And I'd say, well, it's a couple of minutes after 10. These kids can go out to the bathroom. Then they can have their snack. Get the teacher next door to keep an eye on them, because I'm a responsible teacher. No, run over to the convent, get a drink, be back when this is all over. And I'd be running across the yard to the convent, morning after morning. And this would be my thought. This is going to be my last drink, at least until I've done my day's work. I was too sick to recall in those days that at 5 a.m., when the big bell went off to get us into our day, my story goes back to old God's time, before we went mad. And we had this bell going off at 5 a.m. And for me to get into anything in those days, I had to reach over from my bed and take that drink. And I hated doing that. And each and every time I did it, I would say, "This is going to be my last drink, at least until I've done my day's work." So whenever I would take the first one, everything would center around, when am I going to get the next one? And yet, if you met me along the way and you said, "Sister, who or what is the center of your life?" I would have been insulted by the question. You just called me sister. You see how I'm dressed, every piece from stem to stern. You just saw me come out of that building called convent. Then you're asking me who's the center of my life. How come you don't know the center of my life is God? I would have been insulted by the question. Today, I choose to live honestly as best I can, thanks to folks like you. And I have no problem in sharing. Somewhere along the way, the focus in my life shifted. And it shifted from God to that next drink. And I justified the use of alcohol in my life. I might say, too, because maybe someone needs to hear it, it was not one of my goals in life to become an alcoholic. I do not see alcoholism as self-inflicted. I believe it is a disease, sickness condition that comes to a person. I think it's a marvelous and wonderful idea that we have steps that suggest to us that in God's time we make amends because we are accountable. But I don't hold myself responsible for the sickness that came to me. However, I hold myself very, very, very responsible for the precious life-giving gift of sobriety that has been given to me. I did not get sober. I tried to get sober. I couldn't pull it off. I don't believe a person can get sober. That's my opinion. I believe something bigger, greater, outside of the person takes place. They call it a miracle. And I believe the precious life-giving gift of sobriety and the precious life-giving gift of recovery in Al-Anon, I believe it's given. And it's given by one bigger, greater than all of us put together. I choose to call that one God. So I feel very responsible to take care of the precious life-giving gift of sobriety that God has given me. So much so that I have no problem in sharing with you. If you should ever hear that Sister Maurice is back drinking, please, please, don't call me a victim. Call me a volunteer. And the very next thing you should say, somewhere along the line, she wasn't willing to do everything necessary to stay sober. I cannot plead ignorance today. It would never hold up. You have taught me and taught me well how to take care of the precious life-giving gift of sobriety each day that God gives me. Going back to the scene in the bed with the eye in the pillow, the second thing I do each morning before I go looking for the eye, I pray the Lord's Prayer. And when I reach the part of the prayer that says, "Give us this day our daily bread," I emphasize the word daily because I want to remind myself I will have sufficient bread, sufficient help for the day. He will not refuse anyone who asks for the bread, for the help. He gives it a day at a time. My responsibility then to take the bread, the help, and to use it to take care of the gift of sobriety for the rest of that day. There are advantages to years of sobriety. I've had them. But as the years of sobriety increase, so do the perils of smugness. Complacency is a killer. The little sheep that strays from the flock is usually the one that's found in the ditch, over the embankment, hanging from the barbed wire fence. A favorite fruit of mine is a banana. And every time I eat a banana, I have a meditation. And the meditation is, the banana that leaves the bunch is the one that gets skinned. I have a drunkalog that tells you quite well that all by myself I can stay very sick and quite drunk. But I truly believe I cannot stay sober and fairly well without you. Well, how do you really know that? Maurice, you've never left us. When God was giving out ears, I thought he said beers. And I said 2 large ones. I'm an excellent listener to the sharing of my brothers and sisters. I was affected physically, mentally, spiritually, socially, emotionally from this disease. Physically, I fared out pretty well. There were times I tried to arrange my own physical death. I used to take the car, leave the Bronx, go across the George Washington Bridge, up the Palisades Parkway, and pull over where you could sightsee. And I'd say, when those cars are gone, when those folks are gone, I'm going to run this car over the embankment because I don't know what's the matter with me. And then I'd have what I call today a moment of amazing grace. And I'd say, I'll go get a drink. I'll come back and do this another time. So I was not to die physically, but there are other ways of dying I'm sure you can identify. I suffered the death of my values. I suffered the death of my integrity. I suffered the death of everything I stood for as a woman, everything I stood for as a sister. All those areas of my life died. Outwardly, I looked pretty good, held a job, did it fairly well, tried to keep up with my responsibilities, and above all, I always said my prayers. No matter what shape I was in, I was always praying away. And some of you have shared with me that you thought you missed the boat because you didn't pray enough. I prayed enough for you and all belonging to you. So this disease must be so big. whether you are afflicted with the disease or affected by the disease. This disease must be so big that something as powerful as prayer will not take it away. I don't believe you can just pray your way through alcoholism. And yet we say, where would we be without prayer? Prayer is a path where there is none. But I think for folks like you and me, there's another piece that goes with the prayer. Pray and row the boat. And this beautiful way of life, this design for living, enables us to do that, to pray and to row the boat. I denied that alcohol was my problem. I was somewhat relieved when I learned that denial is the major presenting symptom of alcoholism. And when you're in denial with this disease, you're not in touch with reality. What I knew about my situation would fit on a postage stamp. What was happening in my life was as big as the state of Florida and New York put together. And if I didn't have it up here when it was presented to me, then it didn't happen. Because if it did happen, I'd have it up here. Now, I had hundreds of people talk to me about my drinking and the behavior that went with it. Some of them wanted to be martyrs at an early age. The nerve of that one coming in here and talking to me about my drinking. And there were many times that I exercised the denial. My mother was in a hospital in New York City having a total hip operation. She was there for months and months and months. The operation wasn't as perfected then as it is today. Now, I think they do it going up and down in the elevator. I went every day to be at my mother's bedside, because that's where a good daughter should be. And one day, my beautiful mother, beautiful Irish, soft-spoken lady, she said to me in a whisper, "If you don't come tomorrow, it'll be just fine. You must have a lot of work to do around the convent and the school. Why don't you skip a few days?" And I sat there thinking, wow, there she is with all her pain, and she's thinking of me. But I know today that she was thinking of herself, and rightly so. My beautiful mother could not bring herself to say, "You're an embarrassment to me. You're no help to me. I don't need you around this hospital drunk." Now, I have just one sister, and she's also a sister. I don't call her sister, but yet she's my sister. If you didn't get that, I'll talk to you later. And during my active alcoholism, my sister secretly wished that she had joined a missionary community and lived in Mexico. It's hard to be proud of a sick, untreated alcoholic. I know that today. I didn't know it then. Well, my sister came to the hospital to visit my mother, and she gave me one of those come outside the door kind of winks. I dutifully went outside. I figure she needs my advice, my opinion. That's what I'm there for. My sister is very tall. She towers over me. Unlike my mother, she's a beautiful, soft-spoken lady. So we're outside, and I'm looking up at her, and she says in a whisper, "Why? Why would you come to this hospital at 4 o'clock in the afternoon drinking?" I was just about to give her a lecture when it dawned on me. We've been down this road 100 times before. To the best of my recollection, not a word did I speak. But being a typical alcoholic, and that's all that I am, typical alcoholic, couldn't let well enough alone. I took my right hand, the more powerful of my two, and I belted her. Shortly thereafter, two nurses came running down the hall, and they are yelling, "Sisters, sisters!" They were not calling us sisters because we were related by blood, but we were dressed like sisters used to dress. Some still dress today. My veil was on the floor. Hers was someplace else. Now, I learned a few years later that one of the major rules in this hospital is that no patient leaves their room unescorted. They were coming out crutches, wheelchairs, all four. Because the word got around that there were two nuns out there killing one another. Now, in the midst of this chaos, I had a couple of concerns. I did not have the concern, maybe I shouldn't have belted her. I did not have the concern, maybe I shouldn't have had the last drink before I came down here. My major concern, as I'm looking up at my sister, is why did she scream? That's how we got the hoop-de-doo here. Well, you know, I look back today with a sober, clear head. Do you know it's perfectly normal? You belt someone, they let out a hoot. The other concern I had, my purse had fallen onto the floor, making a rather loud sound as it fell to the floor. I was a little distracted with the purse. I wasn't too concerned about the few dollars in the purse. I have a vow of poverty. I kept it quite well during this time. I was very concerned about the pint of holy water in the purse. 1 pint of Christian Brothers brandy. And what is the thinking of a sick, untreated alcoholic? No one leaves here with that purse other than you know who. Now, there's only one word to describe somebody who'd be in that position. And I had to go through a lot of other descriptions before, with your help, I could get to what's proper, right, and fitting. And if there's anyone in this gathering who still sees themselves in this first group, I would suggest that you leave that thinking here this evening because it does not apply. I had to go through bad, hopeless, weak-willed, sinner, you should know better. But the way I would describe someone today would be sick, unwell, not playing with full deck. That's respectful. Or I heard a fellow one night at a meeting, he said he was a quart low. I heard another fellow another night, he said he had a photogenic mind. He just never had any film in the camera. Well, I had to go ways before I could see myself as sick and unwell. If you drink and you drive, you might miss the mark. I was always behind the wheel of a car. It was an insult to show in your face that you would drive us home. I brought you there, I bring you home. And you know, as sick and all as I was, it never ceased to amaze me. We'd have the big to-do about the fact that I shouldn't be driving. I'd get in behind the wheel, and they'd all get in the car. My first accident, July of 1970. Sister Rose was in court over the dismissal of a teacher from her school. There was a big to-do about this in the diocese. She had a prominent lawyer appointed by the diocese. I said, I'll be in court to help the lawyer help Rose. How do we affect the people on the other side of the coin? The night before the trial, she called me up. She said, Maurice, please, don't come to court. And my thinking was, wow, there she is with all her pain, and she's thinking of me. Well, I know today she was thinking of herself, and rightly so. It was not my style to push. I said, you know what? You'll have a lot of paperwork to do. I'll go to my classes. I'll meet you downtown at lunchtime. You can brief me, and I'll advise you for the afternoon session. And to be rid of me, she said, fine. Well, I was in graduate school that summer, and I drove well fortified from the top of the city, the Bronx, to the Wall Street section of my city. 5 minutes after 12, lunchtime, a working day in Wall Street, and the weather was clear. Those are the things they tell you at the top of a police report. It's important for our situation to know the weather. A United States mail truck that was parked by the curb, minding its own business, got in my way, and I smashed into it. And when the policeman came on the driver's side, first word out of his mouth, you couldn't miss it. He said, "Sister." I was a little taken back by the next part. He didn't say, "Sister, are you hurt? Could I call someone? You think women will ever be ordained?" He said, "Sister, could you have been drinking?" And for a moment, I wondered how the guy got on the police force. As was my style, "Officer, could I help you?" I proceeded to tell the officer about my friend who was in court being persecuted, etc., etc. Well, I went into a blackout, eventually a pass out. I woke up in a convent a short distance away. I woke up in a strange bed. Probably there our stories will differ. They differ in the point that they always took me to a nearby convent. I woke up in a strange bed. Half my clothes on, half my clothes off. I'm looking around, didn't have a clue what happened, where I am, whatever. It was not my custom then, certainly not my custom today, to wake up in strange beds. Well, I know you have your story, but... However, at a time like that, we all have the same tricks of the trade. Where am I? What happened? How do you get out of here? I could hear some talking through a partially open door, so I tiptoed over. I was glad the door was open a little bit, so I didn't have to squeak it. You know, we may be sick, but we're not stupid. We don't go over and throw the door open and say, "What the heck happened?" You go over, you're glad the door's open a little bit, you put an eye in, an ear out to see if you could pick up a little something, because you know from previous experiences they will be questioning you when you don't know anything. So I peek out and I see Rose, and I knew as long as Rose was there, everything was going to be fine. She quietly went about her tasks, and she was always praying, and if I knocked everything down, she put it all back quietly, and, you know. The other sister, neither of us knew the lady. She was at least 7 feet tall. And she was like a lunatic. And I got to the door, peeking out and listening, as the big tall sister is screaming at Rose, "Your friend is on pills or she's drinking, and in order to help her, you are going to have to hurt her." I thought that was poor advice. So I took the eye and the ear in. I went back to bed to get a little rest to handle Rose, who came in and asked the going question in our lives at that time. "What happened?" I told it as I saw it. I lost control of the car because I was so upset about the court case. Now, in those days, the car was in my mother's name. My mother didn't know anything about the accident. I had the car fixed, back out on the road. 3 weeks had passed. Every time we talked to Rose, "When are we going to tell your mother about the accident?" Never. "Why do you want to tell my mother?" "Well, the car's in her name." "So what? The car's fixed." Then the fears that set in for the sick, untreated alcoholic. "What if Rose tells your mother?" So I called Rose up, invited her out for supper, my treat, took her to a little restaurant, leaned across the table in the restaurant and said, "If you dare to tell my mother about the accident, someday you will come out of your convent. I'll be sitting in a car, and when you cross the street, that will be it." That is called threatening someone's life. Now, I always share that in my story, and one night, 100 years ago now, that means a long time, I was speaking someplace, and we had a friend at the meeting. She's not in program, but she came to hear me speak. And at the end, she came up to me and she said, "Do you really think you would have run over Rose?" Up to that moment, no one had ever asked me that question. Not even Rose. I thought for a moment and I said, let me tell it to you this way. Of myself, no. I wouldn't hurt a fly. As a little tot, teenager, young adult, in the convent 100 years, you never knew I was around. I was always hiding out. What do I have to offer? I'm a nothing. I wouldn't hurt you. But you know, you put one drink in here. The first one. And you can paint the most tragic scene you can think of. And I could be the one heading it up. And I always like to point out, because I've had people say to me over the years, well, you know, we know you're a sister and nun, but, you know, you wouldn't hurt. And I always point out that it wasn't that I was at Mass the next morning, or that I was reading one of my 10,000 religious books that I had in those days, and the thought came to me, oh, you shouldn't kill Rose. That isn't what happened. You know what happened? It was another moment of that amazing grace. And I also like to point out that after 38 years of continuous sobriety, you put one drink in here, the first one, and you can paint the most tragic scene you can think of. And I could be the one heading it up. I don't know another disease, sickness, condition like this one. How blessed are we to have been called into a way of life where you can keep that kind of sickness in check through that beautiful process of recovery. You have people walking with you as you do it. The time frame, a day at a time. How blessed are we as well to have beautiful Al-Anon, where you can deal with the effects of this terrible sickness. How blessed are we? However, if we fail to be grateful, we may lose the gift. But if we're truly grateful, we will take care of the gift. Well, the disease was moving along, and one day I got a call from my boss. Now, in those days, if you got a personal call from the big boss, it was something that was unheard of. It was like hearing from the Pope. You never heard from the big boss. She had secretaries, counselors. She called me personally. If she did call you personally, it was for either of two reasons. One, you were in trouble, or there was a special assignment that only you could do. So I'm driving up to see the boss, and this is my thinking. I have enough to do. Why are they asking me? So we sat, and we had a little chit-chat, and she says, Maurice, I'll get to the point. Some of the sisters are saying that you drink too much. Now, in those days, you wouldn't ask a question. I asked a question. I said, well, where are they? She got a little nervous because I guess no one ever asked her a question. And she said, they don't want to be mentioned. I said to myself, they feared for their lives. And you know, in a very sick and negative way, I would not recommend this to anyone. I was into one of our steps at that moment, in a sick and negative way. Made a list. Of all people who had harmed me, and asked God to be rid of them. Well, I asked her another question. I said, do you really know anything about me? Because in those days, there was a gap between the big boss and the rest of us. We had all these other bosses. So she said, well, I have a file. So she went over and she peeked in, and she said, you're going to get your master's degree, and you just got this award, and you got another award for service in the diocese. There were trophies all over the place. She closed the file, and she said, Maurice, I will never, ever again believe this about any of our sisters. I said, that's a good policy to follow. She gave me an apology, and off I went. And I walked back to the car, and I had one thought, and one thought only. She will never, ever, ever send for me again. And she never did. Next time she arrived unannounced and put me away. So when I learned about denial, I like to keep things simple. Alcohol makes the alcoholic feel fine. Yada, 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 yada. Therefore, he or she thinks everything is fine. Meanwhile, the people looking on are going, oh, gee, here we go again. When I learned that, it helped me immensely. I was angry and resentful during this time. I was angry with God. I'd given my life to God. What do you want from me? I love the word relationship. You've been my teachers about relationships. There's so many people in this room that I've had in my life for so many years now. I'm so blessed. Been my teachers about relationships. Prior to recovery, as a little tot, I put a game plan in place trying to relate to this God, whoever or whatever he was. I don't just come from an Irish Catholic family. I have another dimension. We call it BIC, Bronx Irish Catholic. And they were always talking about going to heaven and going to hell, and God's going to get you, and you better be good, and God's watching. So this high, I said, I got to find out. I made a little game plan, and I continued the game plan all the way into the convent some years later. It went like this. I sat up straight, I knelt up straight, I disciplined myself. And we didn't have the expression in those days, but the expression that would have applied, been there, done that. And then when I was drinking, it was taking God on. If you don't need me, well, I don't need you. Now, if I don't need someone bigger, greater, outside of this lady here, I wonder who I think I am. So I was angry and resentful with God. I was depressed during this time. I was in the convent many years before I picked up alcohol. Didn't like taste of alcohol, didn't use alcohol. On the 5th of January, 1967, my beautiful father, Maurice, he went to God. And upon his death, when he looked eyeball to eyeball into the eyes of God, at that moment is perfection for anyone. And whatever you lack, you will receive at that moment. And that's how my father received sobriety. He died of alcoholism at the age of 58. And I buried my father, and I went way inside. And shortly thereafter, I came out with a drink. And I can say quite comfortably, my father and myself were carbon copies of one another with one big difference: the way we were to receive the precious life-giving gift of sobriety. So I was using alcohol to lift me out of a depression. I was getting more depressed. In the bargaining stage, one bargain I like to share on. I got into bed one night, I had my rosary beads, prayer beads, praying away, hanging onto the sheets with the other hand. I'm no sooner in the bed and I have to get up and get a drink. And I said to God, you know what? I don't want to drink anymore tonight. I'll do more work for you and for you people. Please don't let me drink anymore tonight. Well, see, the first drink of the day always has the final say. And of course, we had that. So the covers get pushed back, the rosary beads go to the floor, you get up out of bed, you crawl around in the dark, you find your hiding spot, you get your bottle, and you do something you don't want to do. You take another drink. And after I took that drink that night, I beat that floor, and I doubted the existence of God. How could a God who loved me, a God that I was to relate to, how could you allow me to be in that condition? I'll bet there's no God. I live in downtown Manhattan, right in the heart of New York City. And when I'm in town, I drive on the FDR Drive, the East River Drive, and I see our brothers and sisters, yours and mine, both sides of the highway there. They build their homes there sometimes out of crates, cardboard boxes. You see them frying an egg. And they need a jacket and a pair of shoes. And they have little brown bags. I had only one kind of brown bag. They have my kind and other kinds. And if those folks, our brothers and sisters, went over to the guardrail and beat the guardrail and doubted the existence of God, we'd say, poor socks. What do they got going for them? I'm in a beautiful convent at the time. I want for nothing, and alcohol brought me to the point where I doubted the existence of God. As we say in here, whether you come from Yale or jail, Park Avenue, Park Bench, what does it matter where you came from? I think it's important to get to know your history, your story. But I put more energy into where do we go from here. Whatever happened this morning, yesterday, a week ago, a year ago, or 100 years ago, you have taught me to learn from the experience, but not to let it stand in the way of putting one foot in front of the other and being that person that God created you to be. And the other thing I did that night, I cried out at the top of my lungs. Isn't there anybody anywhere who knows what I'm going through? Because each one in the throes of the sickness, whether you are afflicted with the disease or affected by the disease, each one thinks nobody knows what I'm going through. Well, I didn't know you were up the street and across the road and down the pike and over the highway going through the same thing. But I'm mighty glad that somewhere along the way, God saw fit we would find one another in this beautiful fellowship. And it is God who has arranged our meeting. I truly believe that. C.S. Lewis, you've heard of him. He says in one of his writings about relationships, he talks about relationships in general, and he says it's as if God says to the people in the relationship, you have not chosen one another, but I, God, have chosen you for one another. If you think of the relationships that you have in the fellowship, would you of yourself have chosen those people? Maybe yes, maybe no. I like to think it was arranged, like happened at the Gatehouse in Akron, Ohio, sometime back with Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob. And do you know, as a result of that arranged relationship, that's how we get to be here this evening? It's really something when you put it all out there and reflect on it. Well, today I make bargains, deals, promises, commitments, and I follow through. I attribute that to one fact and one fact only. I don't drink alcohol while I'm sober. Very significant in Maurice's life. And the final stage is acceptance. The disease was moving along, and finally it all came to a head because I had two exceptional do-gooders in my life. My sister, who's a sister, and my dear friend, Sister Rose. And keeping it simple, they snitched. They blew the whistle and turned me into the boss that I had charmed a few months before. They brought the boss to my mother's where I was hiding out. I noticed a marked difference in the boss. She wasn't interested in anything that I had to say. And she was saying things like, arrangements have been made. And they're expecting you in Lutheran General Hospital in Park Ridge, Illinois. I listened. She said you could go Friday or Saturday. I listened. And then she said you'll be there for 28 days. And all of a sudden, way in here, I said, I won't be there for 28 minutes. And then she said, there you will find out what is wrong with you. And all of a sudden, way in here, I said to myself, there isn't anything wrong with me. But as sick and all as we are not stupid. And I knew the only way I was going to get out of the room and away from the three people. Also, I looked over on the table. There was my first grade class, my life as a sister, the roof over my head, my driver's license, the keys to the car, and I was getting those. So the only way to take care of everything there was to say, I'd go. I said, I'll go. I'll go Saturday. So I went out on an AA plane, American Airlines, the way I like to go. And I met 64 charming men and women, like many of you. And the word got around quickly that we had this Catholic nun, this sister in treatment. And one by one, all 64 came to me. And they all did the same thing. They beat up on themselves. They said terrible things. But they always finished by saying, you know, sister, this is a mistake for you. You shouldn't be in a place like this. You're not like me. Well, believe you me, anyone who thinks like I do, they're going to be my friend. I had a nifty getaway plan. I scrapped it. I'm not one who sits around idle. By the end of the first week, I was a therapist. And the word got around, you don't like your counselor, you don't like the group, you don't like the meetings. Talk to the sister. She knows everything about everything. And they would come and they would say terrible things about themselves, but they always finished by saying, you know, sister, you're not like me. And I continued getting energy from that. Well, every day at 1 o'clock, we had what they call free time. Remember those 28-day programs? They put big capital letters, free time. And then in parentheses, this is what you'll do with it. We were supposed to stay in our room, read, write, listen to tapes. I always did as I was told. We had a nice table, tape recorder, pens, books. I'd block out what happened yesterday. I'd be there promptly at 1 o'clock every day. I'd be there 2 minutes. I'd take the table, throw it clear across the room, go to the wall behind, banging my head against the wall, yelling and screaming at God, why me? I've been so good and this is what you've done to me. There'd be blood pouring out of my head. My roommate would run out. She'd say, she's at it again. They'd come in, clean me up, calm me down. I'd be fine till the next day at 1 o'clock. I was too sick then and long before that time. It goes back as a little tot. Too sick to hear God say, you don't have to be good. You are good. That's a given. No one has been deprived of that goodness. Well, where does the bad come in? Oh, it's there. Attitude, behavior. I try, keyword try, to separate attitude and behavior from the person. I try, keyword try, to separate attitude and behavior from this lady here. And I continue to chip away at my attitude and my behavior through that marvelous and wonderful process of recovery. I do it along with the rest of the folks, a day at a time. And while the process continues, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, I walk very tall. I cannot help but be impressed at the goodness and holiness that sits and stands in this room. And if you're not there yet, borrow from me till you get your own strength. I don't know another outfit in the world that mentions the word spiritual or spirituality more than people like you and me. You want to know the key to the spiritual, to a life-giving, healthy spirituality? It's getting in touch with your own goodness. And the world has missed the boat with that. How blessed are we to have been called into a way of life where you can chip away at your stuff and get in touch with what you thought you were deprived of. And if you're not there yet, borrow from me till you get your own strength. You don't have to be good, you are good. The marvelousness, magnificence, the holiness that's in this room. I'm so moved by that. Attitude and behavior, welcome to the club. I continue to chip away at mine to this beautiful design for living. And while the process continues, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, I walk very tall. Well, some 38 years later, and for quite a while now, I have a why me question of God. Not why me, why am I an alcoholic? I don't give any time to that. But a frequent question. Why me, God? Why am I sober? Since most people don't receive this gift. And the reason I ask it frequently, I don't want to take sobriety for granted. I don't want my attitude to be big deal, sober, a day at a time. What else is new? I want to stay in touch with the gift. So God, tell me again, why am I sober? Since most people don't receive this gift. And he answers very loud and very clear, and he says the same thing all the time. He says, Maurice, you have not chosen me, but I have chosen you. And he says, many are called to the disease of alcoholism. Very few, a drop in the bucket, are chosen for the precious life-giving gift of sobriety, for the precious life-giving gift of recovery in Al-Anon. And I say, why me? And he says, make your little chart. I make a little chart. I headed alcoholism. I put a simple line down the center. I put on this side of the chart all of us in recovery around the world. Fairly big number, AA, Al-Anon combined. I put on this side of the chart all those who are still out there. You wouldn't even see us. I find it awesome to be on that side of the chart. And I don't want to take that for granted. So why me, God? Tell me again, why am I on that side of the chart? And he says, Maurice, how do you see death? 100 years ago now, that means a long time I sat with death. What is God doing? What is death all about? I was just meditating on death. And I read a line that I had read many times before. But this time I had a moment of amazing grace. And the line is, there's a time to be born and there's a time to die. And that's on God's calendar. And I believe any person goes to God in death, regardless of age or circumstances, when their work here on earth is finished. I do not see the God of my understanding as a yo-yo. Well, I'm taking that one, I'm getting that one. No, I see God this way. Your work is finished. I may have more work for that person to do, but on God's calendar, their work is finished. And the thing that helps me too, I'll see those people again when my work is finished. Well, the point, untreated alcoholism is still listed as an ultimate terminal condition, 100% fatal. And here we are. Because we're better than anyone else? No. We're here because our death has been interrupted, our work is not finished. There'll be tragedy in our world tonight. Some people will go to God, their work is finished. Others will be saved, their work is not finished. Those who are saved, I don't know what their work is, more will be revealed to them. I believe ours is defined. It's a specialized work, and nobody does it as well as the people in the rooms, whether that be AA, Al-Anon, or Twice Blessed. It's a specialized work. It's to take care of the precious life-giving gift of sobriety, the precious life-giving gift of recovery in Al-Anon, and to carry a message, walk with, pass it on, be the fellowship. That's my number one assignment on any given day. And I take the liberty of saying, I believe yours is the exact same as mine. Take care of the gift of sobriety, the gift of recovery. Carry a message, walk with, pass it on, be the fellowship. Many ways to carry a message. Pontificating at a podium is one way. Putting this whole event together, all the service that goes on for a weekend like this, all the love and service that's given in the rooms. Many ways to carry a message. To arrive any place sober, you carry a message. That's why we're called a program of attraction rather than promotion. People just see it. Well, on the 27th and a half day of the 28-day program, I woke up and there was something different about me. I was crying and laughing and shouting, I'm really an alcoholic, really an alcoholic. And I went to see my one-on-one counselor at the facility, a beautiful Lutheran minister. We had many sessions together. And I said to him, Reverend, I'm really an alcoholic. And this man did something that he never did in any of our sessions. He started dancing around the room. And he said, I have a prescription for you to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you're faithful to that prescription, you'll only have to return here as our guest. I said, I won't make any promises. I'll see what I can do. And by that amazing grace of God, as it operates in rooms like this, and my cooperation with the grace, another way of saying that, we know the program works, but if you don't work the program, it doesn't work for you. So by my doing my part, I haven't found it necessary to pick up a drink or any substitute since April 17th, 1971. I am not one who says I will never drink again. Early this morning, I asked for daily bread. We'll see how tomorrow goes. I came into these rooms and I did the old one too. I didn't drink and went to meetings, didn't drink, went to meetings. Could always be found sitting in the third row waiting for this to be finished, but they weren't going to say I wasn't there. And one night I heard a fellow share, and this is what he said. He said he learned unless he put the 12 suggested steps into his life and made some changes, he could very well lose his sobriety. And I sat up real tall because I was sure he was going to say, we don't mean that for the little sister there in the third row. And he never said it. And with the help of people like you, I learned why I was so miserable. Oh, I heard you say, change or die. But I used to poke the one next to me. Isn't there something in between? No, to be stuck would be a luxury. We're always in motion. We're getting better or we're going back. We're changing or we're dying. But no big deal. Marvelous and wonderful process. Wonderful folks walking with us. Time frame, a day at a time. My responsibility before God, I'll try. God bless his effort. And change started to happen and continues to happen right up to this moment, because I continue to be a student of the principles and traditions, and I do it along with folks like you. And the changes, I have them in 3 categories. The first had to do with the intellect. When I came into these rooms, I had thinking that went, ready, fire, aim. I had postage stamp thinking, very narrow thinking. And we talked about that. And you said, Maurice, work your steps to the best of your ability. Don't go it alone. It'll do wonders for your head. And I took the suggestion. And I've had what I call up here an intellectual conversion. And then the moral conversion. I lost my value system. And that bothered me. And you said, Maurice, work your steps to the best of your ability. Don't go it alone. And it'll do wonders for your value system. And you'll be able to put first things first and second things second. And when you're wrong, you'll be able to promptly admit it. And you'll be able to practice the principles in all your affairs. And you'll even be able to practice the principles and you won't have affairs. And I took the suggestion. And I got my value system back. I've had what I call a moral conversion. And then you talked one more category. You talked about spirituality. And you were always talking about spirituality, and I used to say to myself, because I was very shy then, I still am somewhat today, I used to say, well, that spirituality sounds good for them, but see, I have religion. When I came into the rooms of AA, I could not go straight in the door to a meeting because I had flags in my ears. Catholic, Catholic, very, very Catholic. So I had to go in sideways. And people talked to me about that. And they said, Maurice, our program teaches us balance. You can keep your religion, but maybe you should think about getting centered with it. And you helped me to get centered with my religion. I have the same religion that I was brought up with. You also gave me a wonderful technique. I use it with my religion and many areas of my life. It's a wonderful technique. I take what helps me and I leave the rest. So I said, okay, tell me about spirituality. And you said it has to do with relationships. Oh, I said, I didn't know that. You said, yeah. Relating to the higher power. Oh, I said, mine, that's a mess. And you said it also has to do with relating to other people. Oh, I said, my relationships are a disaster. And then you went on to say, it also has to do with relating to yourself. And I got very sad. I said, I'll never have spirituality. There's nothing here to relate to. And you said, we'll help you get in touch. And you have taught me the full meaning of love your neighbor as yourself, not instead of yourself. You have taught me the full meaning. This above all, to thine own self be true. And little by slowly, as I chipped away at my stuff, my attitude and behavior, through that beautiful process, I got in touch with the light, the life, the magnificence, the wonderfulness, the greatness that I thought I was deprived of. And I became comfortable in my own skin. And today I have a life-giving, healthy, meaningful spirituality. And it all happened, the only help I've had. It's this beautiful process, doing with folks like you a day at a time. So when God gives the gift of sobriety, the gift of recovery in Al-Anon or another 12-step program, I believe he says 3 things. 1, I'm interrupting your death. Your work's not finished. Carry a message, walk with, pass it on, be the fellowship. 2, you will share relationship with these people. They will come into your life and you will come into theirs in fellowship. And 3rd, with this gift of sobriety, this gift of recovery, I give you your dignity, walk tall. So my prayer for you as you continue about your appointed rounds a day at a time is that you'll have your sobriety, your recovery if you're in another program. And as a result of that, I just know you'll have your dignity. And I close, the miracle does take place. She does finish. I close with a couple of things. A favorite piece of mine from the big book, I'm sure you can identify with it. Here I found an ingredient that had been lacking in any other effort I had made to save myself. Here was power. Here was power to live to the end of any given day. Power to have courage to face the next day. Power to have friends. Power to help people. Power to be sane. Power to stay sober. And the very short version of Maurice's story. Sometime they're going to invite me for the short version. Well, I'll go anyway. I'm sure you'll be able to identify with that. But before I do that, I once again would like to thank Lee and the committee members and all who are doing love and service this weekend. Could we just give them all a hand? And I know somebody's going to come and tell me that I didn't tell you where I was from. I'm from a place called the Bronx. Bronx, New York. And it's famous, the Bronx is famous for a couple of things. The people born in the Bronx, not just living there, the people born in the Bronx are the only people in the world who can say they don't have an accent. And the other thing about the Bronx, there are only two places in the world that have "the" in front of them. One is the Bronx, the other is the Vatican. And I'm associated with both of those places. And I close with the short version of Maurice's story. I'm sure you can identify with it. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved someone like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. And may God, however you understand that God, may God bless you, and God bless me, and God keep you, and God keep me, because nobody does it quite as well. Thank you so very much.